Hi, my name is Darren, this is QLD Off-Road Adventures, and welcome to another one of my videos. I'm just in the process now of fitting the head unit, an additional camera, and also connected all up to the amplifier, my apologies, and also to the speakers that we previously fitted. So just want to introduce you to what I'm actually doing. So let's go and have a look. Okay, so what we're actually fitting is this Sony head unit. This is an XAV AX8000. This will go into the dash. It's a single DIN base, which means that it will require an infill pocket. So what we're actually going to do there is we'll put a pocket in the base of it to ensure that it fills all the voids. Now, in the as far as the amplifier, the one that we previously fitted, the focal, we're not going to be using this harness. Instead, we will be using an RCA setup for it. We also have our Sony AV ISO harness and the Toyota ISO harness to connect the two together. As far as the camera is concerned, this is the camera we're talking about, and in actual fact this camera will be fitted into a different location. I'm actually going to be fitting it into the front of the vehicle, and what I will attempt to do is either fit it into here or possibly even into here. I believe it's probably better there because it'll give me a complete view of what's going on down the front. Finally, I just want to say that I'm also going to be updating, for those of you who already know my vehicle, I'm going to be updating one of the UHFs. I do have two UHFs in there. I'm going to be updating this one. The one I've currently got in there is an ICOM and an Oricom. The ICOM will stay. It is a it's probably by far one of the best radios on the market to date. And then I've got an Oricom, which was the secondary unit for just basically scanning. Unfortunately, it is not actually very good. And the screen has already failed on the unit. It's got a remote screen. So we'll be removing this. We'll be putting this in place of today as well, hopefully. So okay, as far as my vehicle is concerned, this is the head unit as explained before, and that has to go into here to replace the factory head unit. The factory head unit is, if anybody has a 79 or 70 series point blank, or most Toyotas for that matter, the factory head units in Toyotas are very ordinary at best. I would say that you couldn't get much worse. On the market in most modern vehicles, it's a bit of a shame because Toyotas by and large do build a very good and reliable vehicle, but that's certainly one of the major things that lets it down. Alright gents, I've covered the windshield because the glare from the outside light is going to make it very difficult for people to see. So I'm going to show you how to remove this trim. Now, for those who've never attempted it, these sort of trims are quite simple to take off if you know how. So any other trims that you wish to remove from any vehicle you own, there's always a really simple way to find out how to do it. Somebody's probably done it already, so go on YouTube and have a look, and somebody I'm sure will have posted a video. Otherwise, you can actually get manufacturers' manuals that show you how to do it. So to basically show you what we've got to do is this particular trim has two tab holes below here. Now there are specialized tools for it. My specialized tool is a screwdriver I've had for many years, which I've bent the end over, so it gives me the ability to basically lever it out like that, and it enables me to remove something without causing any damage. You've got to be very cautious when you remove these sort of things. If you are rough with them, you're likely to break one or two of the tabs, and then the chances are it will not sit correctly when you put it back. The other thing to remember is when you have items such as these, they will have wires in the back of it, so when you pull the trim out, just be gentle and then remove the plugs from the back first. They will be very different, so that you can't mix them up when you put them back, but if unsure, you can just label them. But yeah, basically I will show you how this works. So and I hope the camera works not too bad here, but you put this under there and you pull it forward very simply. You don't even need to pry it, because when you do pry it, you can actually damage the plastic below. But if you just put it behind there and just gently pull forward, exactly this happens where you've just removed the face, and then just gently pull it forward, put the same behind there, and just pop it out. Very, very simple, and without any damage to the motor vehicle at all. Once you've pulled this forward, here's the wiring that I was talking about. Find the little lugs that will release the plugs, and then you can just undo the whole lot. So this is what I was referring to with the two plugs that would be located in the back of it. And as I said, they're usually very, very different. They do this for a number of reasons, but predominantly when the assembly line puts vehicles together, it's just a much faster way of doing it when they're not the same. So yeah, basically that's the beginning of it, and now we will need to get ourselves a socket set and then remove these 4 10mm bolts to be able to move the head unit out. Okay, so now we'll start by removing those screws, and you'll find that they are usually very, very loose. So when you do put them back in, when you refit that cradle, just don't overdo them. They usually just go into plastic. In some motor vehicles they will have a little bit of a fastener behind it, which is usually only made of very thin tin. So again, just be gentle. You'd be surprised, they don't need a lot of torque or tension on those bolts to hold them in, or on those screws to hold them in. So just be aware of that. Alright, so that one is loose. And as you can see, I'm not even using the ratchet to get these off. I'm actually able to do it with my hand, which shows you how loose they are. So now once we've got that loose, same thing applies. You pull it out gently. Just be aware that there are a number of wires on the back of this, and we don't want to obviously lose them, or damage them. So now we can pull this forward. Okay, and as it comes forward, and that's what I was talking about. So there's a whole variety of wires back here that have different reasons or purposes, including power, etc. So just be aware of that. Right, so there you go. So that's basically a Toyota unit. This part is the cradle. You will need this part for the new unit. So make sure that you don't just dispose of the entire unit. If you do intend to throw it out, you will need that cradle that has to come off this. So this is the connector that goes between the Toyota and the new head unit. This side goes to Toyota, this side goes to the new ISO connector that goes to the new head unit. So given that's what I'm looking at here, that's obviously specific Toyota, so none of this will clearly plug into that. So I think we can quite simply follow that back, and we'll see where that comes out, and then decide what we'll do with that. Okay, now with the engine on, we'll try there doesn't seem to be a trigger, so I'm actually, it's very minimal, it's 0.9 volts. So what I might do is, I might have to do some research on that and determine what the purpose of that wire is. Okay guys, so now we've got the head unit ready to go, or we've got all the plugging in there ready to go. The purple wire turns out to be a bit of an afterthought. Nobody seems to be quite sure what, and if anybody can answer it, please do put it in the comments. I think it'd be worth knowing for people. As much as I could determine, it was a low voltage lead. So just to give you a look for those who hadn't seen it, so this is the original antenna harness. So that's, I believe, where the antenna goes in, and then possibly this will be the power or booster, and this will be obviously the ISO. Now, and there's the other half. Now on this bit, this didn't go anywhere. The only thing that actually went anywhere was this little purple wire, and it's crimped on, so hence why the comment, it's an afterthought. You would only use those to crimp onto existing wire, which goes in there, and then you close it and it clips on. I actually don't recommend using these at all because they do fail, especially in a car that goes off-road. A lot of vibrations, they come loose. But clearly Toyota has had an afterthought there. These didn't go anywhere, so as far as specific, they went straight to the head unit, well, or at least two of them went to the head unit, and my suspicion is that this may have just been a steering control function for a model somewhere else, but not these models. So why they've connected it even up, I'm not sure, but we've discarded all of that and just replaced it with the Toyota ISO. So this Toyota ISO, whether you get that brand or another brand, doesn't really matter. Does work very well, and it's got all the right functionality. And then this one, which is the ISO from your head unit, mine is Sony specific, will go in. As far as the, if you do have steering controls, which the 79 at this stage doesn't, but it will have in future, this does, the Sony head unit does come with it, and we will certainly be connecting it. Now what we're going to do is, as I said before, we're going to actually have to fit the whip. Now just remember that in particular radios or FM aerials, they can suffer a lot from electronic interference. So when you do run it, try and run it away from anything that may cause it some interference. Now one of the best places I found to connect it to, and we'll try and show you where that is. I'm not entirely sure whether I can actually get there, so bear with me. Right, so I've already removed the bung, but as you can see down there's a bung bin removed, and it's actually clean. It's directly underneath the brake booster. Now for me to get my hand down with the camera, it's almost impossible because I had a brake upgrade to this vehicle, so the booster is considerably bigger, and I can't get to it. But just to keep in mind, yeah, so that's probably the easiest one to remove. And then what you can do is, I'll try and unthread this camera to show you exactly where it is. So it's actually down in there. So what I would suggest is that the wire be following this exterior and then come through here, through the grill, and onto here, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is the antenna I bought is the GME. It's AEM3. I'm a big fan of Australian products, and I will always try and use Australian products. It's not always possible, obviously, we don't make everything here, but certainly where possible we will, and especially if the product is good, and GME is very, very good. So this will be the product that we will fit. Yeah, so in this case now, we are going to be fitting it in. Now with these you can fit it from there backwards. Again, this is a personal choice. Normally I wire from there forward, especially with the UHFs, but with this it's not a requirement, because in actual fact we can't disconnect short of breaking a solder up here, which we don't intend to do, and the wire will feed back through it. Now when you fit it, you can see a short and a long end. To be honest, I'm not entirely sure why they do it. My only thing I would consider is put this one forward, so I would be fitting it like this, because the strain of the wind pushing against the aerial is obviously going to do that to the fitting. So as it pushes the fitting back, the more at the front it has to hold down, the less likely it's to do any damage. So fit that into your ball bar, and then you get a rubber plate, and that's just take some of the shock out of it. So fit that over the top, and then drop your cone over it like so. Then your little rubber O-ring, just slide that right down into there, and then your little brass nut, your 11mm brass nut that goes over the top of it. So just like so. Okay, now once that's actually on there, I will tighten it up straight away, and that's just to purely stop that from shifting, because as we're moving, obviously it has the possibility to move forward and backwards. So now again, these are fragile fittings, so although I'm using a rather large tool, do be gentle when you do it. They don't need all that much to be done to it. You can quite literally lift it off, have a look, see once it actually starts seating in there like that. She's generally pretty good, and she's solid. So now you've got the antenna or the whip, which I got one that's relatively short. You can get considerably longer ones, but yeah, that just sits on there like so, and then again we'll nip that up here. Okay, so now we've fitted this on there, we'll just get the, it's not quite a 15, it's probably an AF, but yeah, 15mm will do the job just nicely to tighten it down. And all you're looking for is when you tighten it in, I'll just switch to ring spanner to show you, it's just as that nut pushes down the plastic. There you go, so it's now pushing firmly down the plastic, and actually start seeing a little bit of plastic come off that cone, and that's solid. That's never going to vibrate off, and should do quite well. And given the distance between the edge of the vehicle where the antenna is now, you will also not have that issue of having that antenna get knocked off by branches, or the odds are fairly slim, given the flexibility of this product as well. So admittedly, it has been done, it has been broken. Okay, so here I have my camera that I'm going to be putting in there facing forwards, and they've actually given us this little hole saw. Look, don't use it. It's not going to, especially with the bull bar, it's definitely not going to get through. You must use the appropriate equipment, and if you don't have it, go buy it or borrow it. Somebody will have it. So this little camera is what we intend to do. It's IP68, so there should be absolutely no ingress of water or anything into it, and we're hoping to fit that in the front of the bar. Okay, so I do apologise for this awkward angle, but yeah, what we're actually going to do is we're going to put a hole dead centre there, just in behind, and then we'll fit that through. Okay, so with some calibers, I've determined that it's 13mm, my apologies, 18mm hole. So what we're going to do is we're going to pre-drill first with this, and then we're going to use this step drill, which has 18mm step in there, to complete that. So this is the center right here, previously marked out, and then we'll just go into it. Now, depending on your bull bar, this might not be possible. Okay, so I'm actually out of cutting oil, so I'm just going to use some CRC. It will do the same thing. It'll just lubricate the bit, and help it. So while we're cutting through, because this is quite heavy steel, we'll just keep it flying. So we now have got an 18mm hole. So now what we'll do is we'll clean that up, we'll dress it, we'll coat it, so we'll put some paint on there to prevent any rusting, and then we'll insert the camera. Prior to painting, we're just going to test fit the camera, and that's just to ensure that it actually fits. So it sits very nicely in the hole, and now we'll pull it back out, and as we've prepped it and cleaned it, we can now paint that surface. That's where that camera is, so it's nice and flush. There's absolutely no chance of it getting struck. We will be applying some sealant behind, just to make sure it really can't pop out. But yeah, so it shouldn't get in the way of the winch or anything as well, once the cables are tucked up and run up behind it. Okay, so just to let you know, we've now plugged the cameras in, or the camera, sorry, in, and we've heat shrunk the connections. Now, for those of you who've never done this before or have limited experience, don't skimp on this stuff. Honestly, spend a little bit of money. Do the heat shrinking. It will stop dirt and mud and water and everything else getting in there, and over the long term, you will truly preserve your vehicle a lot better. Now, the next step we have is we're going to have to put it into some conduit. There's two conduits we're going to have to use. We'll use this small one here for the individual wire, and then where all the connections are, we're going to use a double. The reason for that is that we can make sure that nothing that hits that wire is going to damage it. So we'll fit that in there first. Just cut this down. Okay, so you take that right back to the camera until you're touching the camera, and then you can run that right through. Now we'll run it to right up to there, so hold that on, cut that off, okay, and then bring that right into there like so. From that point we use a bigger one. The reason we have to use a very, very big one is obviously because there's two cables there, so feed those in there like so. Where those two are, it should then pick them up and drag that through, right, like so. And at the end of that, we can go back to a single. Now, we obviously between there and there we'll have to make some connections. So this is where your trusty electrical tape comes in. You run the tape around the narrow part first, and then one of the tricks is that if you set the conduit so the tape actually comes out mid conduit in the split, and then tape it back from there, it'll actually hold the conduit together, and it'll prevent it from moving as well. So now, due to this being a very large conduit and they have a habit of splitting apart, what I will actually be doing is I'm going to be running the tape full length of that conduit, just to ensure that conduit stays together, continues to protect those connections within. Okay, same thing here, so we'll stop there. So that's the part there, and now we'll put the smaller conduit from there up again, so we'll feed that in like so, and that should be pretty straightforward. Just feed that up there. Okay, now because there's a power supply there, at this point I will stop, and once again we'll cut the conduit off, feed it in, and we'll do the same thing again as we did before. And that little wire is not needed in our application, so we'll stick that in there like so. Okay, pull it back, and now we can continue just like we did before with wrapping that through there like so.